Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Iowa Speedway, the jewel of the Midwest, as we get set to rock and roll for tonight's Garry Mercer 130 for the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series right here on LSRTV. I'm Jacob Seelman alongside Evan Pizzogo as we get set to roll for 150 laps, just barely over 130 miles right here from Iowa, the 7/8 mile banked speedway that produces some of the most exciting racing that you'll find anywhere. Evan, I'll tell you, after last week, though, at the Daytona International Speedway, and then the last couple weeks, really, in this RSR series, you can't ask for a whole lot more than what we've gotten. It's been incredible. We've seen Scott Stenzel pick up his first win, and we've seen Eric Brundys take a hit to his championship lead, of course, getting closer and closer to that chase reset. But a lot of storylines could be settled tonight because there's always a lot of beating and banging anytime you go to a short track.
Yeah, this track under 1 mile in length, and we got the Gen 6 cars out here, so a little bit of a different setup combo. Gen 6 not here in real life with the NASCAR Cup Series, but it's going to be a fun night out. Again, you talked about the fact that this track's 7/8 of a mile in length. We got 150 laps on the board, and a big field tonight. 36 cars, Jacob, put down a time in the practice session. Right now, the drivers going through their 10-minute qualifying session where they try to put down the 2 fastest laps, so closed qualifying, but 30-plus drivers, getting up into the range of 38 drivers that actually entered the sim for this evening's race. This could be a pretty good one once again, like Daytona last week, to kick off our third segment. You talked about Scott Stenzel being able to pick up that win. And also, we have a lot of good tracks covered up on the schedule, too, as we approach that chase reset to get ready for those final 10 or so races. So we're looking forward to this one also.
Yeah, definitely going to be very, very exciting tonight. Looking at the points really quickly, Eric Brundys, of course, still leading the championship by more than a full race, but his lead shaved down to 65 points over Rhett McBride in second, Jonathan Cadell in third, 79 back, Thomas George fourth, 97 points in arrears, Scott Simley 118 back in fifth. Biggest mover, obviously, Scott Stenzel picking up to 8th in the championship, though he sits behind Steve Gottschalk and Nathan Little, although just 4 points back of Little in 7th is Stenzel, Kevin Linden, Brandon Peterson, the rest of the top 10 in the championship standings. So still a lot to be settled, but I'll tell you, a win does wonders for a driver's confidence, and I'm looking at Scott Stenzel to be a force to be reckoned with tonight in that number 42 machine as he looks for what would be win number 2 on the RSR.
I mean, you talk about wins, the only driver sitting on multiple wins at the top of the championship standings besides Chad Cole, who's down in 43rd, but you got Eric Brundys up top again. He has 3 wins in the number 1 spot in the championship standings. Rhett McBride, Jonathan Cadell both have 2 wins, sitting second and third. Everybody else, they have 1 win scattered throughout. So wins really do pay due dividends. One driver that I'm looking forward to break through is Dan Murray. He is sitting on a handful of poles this season. He has 2. So that's more than anybody in front of him in the championship standings, more than the top 5 in the points. So Dan Murray could be another guy that needs to try to use these closing portions of the regular season, per se, in this third and final segment before we hit the chase to try to get that W and get back up there to be able to contend for a championship when this thing comes down to it.
Now, I'll tell you right now, we've talked about polls, we've talked about wins, but I think what we need to talk about, too, is consistency. And we talk about Eric Brundys. Yeah, he took a hit in the championship, but you look at 15 races so far this season, and Eric Brundys, 3 wins, but the stat that sticks out to me, 10 top 5s, 11 top 10s. For Brundys this year, it's either been finish in the top 5 and have a shot at winning, or something's gone wrong. He's got best average finish of anybody in the league this year, only one with an average finish in the single digits. There's been nobody better.
And another thing to keep in mind also, take a look at Rhett McBride sitting second in the championship standings. We talk about him and Eric Brundys trying to duke it out right now. Really doesn't mean much when it comes to championship-wise. The points will reset. But right now, Rhett McBride sits second in the championship standings, and you touched on it when you went through the points. He's 65 points back in the number 2 position. Only difference between him and Eric Brundys is, besides the fact that Brundys has more than double the top 5s that Rhett McBride has, is Rhett McBride has 1 race that he did not start. So out of the 15 races, tonight race 16, Eric Brundys has started 15. and Rhett McBride, second in the points, only started 14. So that could be another factor to attribute to that. Again, McBride lacking maybe in the top fives as Eric Brundage really blows everybody else out of the water. But Rhett McBride and also Jonathan Cadell sitting solid with 9 top 10s also on the season in second and third in the points.
Yeah, they are. So obviously it's not been totally the Eric Brundage show, but you go into tonight now, as we said, 150 laps, 131.25 miles. But what is striking is this is the first short track of segment 3, and we've seen so many times, but especially in RSR in 2014, these short tracks tend to be the great equalizers where you can have a lot of guys be very competitive, but you also see a lot of beating and banging and maybe some tempers before the end of the night as well.
And don't forget, we're under the lights, so that only makes short track racing even better. And the setup here that the RSR guys have put together for this third segment, again, 3 segments is what separate this regular season per se. There's a whole bunch of different racetracks. You look forward to Atlanta, Indianapolis, Watkins Glen, Michigan, Bristol, and then Richmond to close out the regular season and get ready for the chase for the championship. All of these racetracks are very different in their own like, so a great setup and a great diversity that RSR has given these drivers to close out this regular season. But again, you mentioned short track Iowa Speedway and also going to close it off with Richmond. Short track racing at its finest, but we're not really going to go to 2 tracks in these next few races before we get ready to crown the championship that are identical. They're all very different, which could also lead forward and bring up some different winners that we might not have seen.
Yeah, different winners, I think, is another key. But, Evan, I've looked at a few guys in this top 10. Of course, Scott Stenzel was one of the ones we were keeping an eye on to maybe get that first win. He got it last week at Daytona. You look at the rest of this top 10, or maybe even outside of it, who are you looking at to possibly break through and end that winless drought here tonight?
I got to go with Dan Murray again. And I mean, he's sitting 21st in the championship standings, and there's some other guys back there that you got to keep an eye on. You got to take a look at a guy like Adam Benefiel, CJ Lavere, all of these guys. They know they have race cars because they're sitting on poles. But Dan Murray is one guy that I'd keep an eye on. Again, 21st in the championship standings. He's 276 points back on the board. Doesn't have a win yet this year, only 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s, but he is sitting on 2 poles. That is the most out of anybody in front of him. So he's 21st. Nobody 1st through 20th in championship standings has more poles than him, so we know that that machine has speed. He just needs to translate it into an entire race, and right now he's currently sitting 6th in the provisional qualifying order. So Dan Murray, I think, is a guy to keep an eye out, the number 55 in these coming weeks.
I'll give you one more that I've really liked this season. He's missed a couple of races, but he's been competitive, I think. Just hasn't had the results to show for it is John Higman Jr., Evan. He's been very competitive in the races we've seen him run, just unfortunately has not had the results to show for it. Only 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s this season.
I mean, there's a whole bunch, and anybody can win here on a given day. And, you know, we talked about last week's race when we go to Daytona. It's always the plate tracks. Everybody calls them the wild card races. Anybody can walk away with them. Iowa could also become a track similar to that kind of situation and being under a mile in length. So I guess you can consider it a short track. Again, these guys are running lap times pretty much average on 22 seconds. So not a lot of room, a lot of cars. Anything can happen, especially, again, when we go under the lights at a short track racing with the RSR guys. So tonight could also be one of those races where we see a couple guys steal a win. You taking a look again at some of these guys here that were fast in practice. You got to look at guys like Adam Benefiel again with no wins, Dan Murray, Steve Gottschalk, a whole bunch of guys here, top 10 in practice, still looking for a first win. Could try to break through tonight.
Well, let's take a look at who we've got that could potentially break through tonight. And to do that, we're going to look at our Garry Mercer starting grid here this evening. And qualifying literally just finishing up moments ago on the pole tonight with a lap of 22.689 seconds. The number 1 machine of Thomas J. George. Outside of him on the front row with a 22.692, just a couple thousandths away, the 15 of Jonathan Cadell.
Take a look back at the second row. Third starting position belongs to the number 9 of Bobby Terrell. Alongside him in fourth, the 66 of Brian Harvey.
Row 3, you find the 21 of Matt Lacrosse, who has almost won a couple of times over the past few weeks. Alongside him, your pick tonight, Evan, the number 55, Dan Murray.
Adam Benefiel in the 85 is going to roll her off inside row 4 and 7th, alongside Eric Brundage at a 94, starting in 8th.
The championship points leader rolls off 8th. Behind him in row 5 on the inside, the 60 of John Higman Jr. Outside, the number 13 of last week's pole sitter, Michael Woolley.
Doug Roth at a 43 is going to be rolling off in position 11, and 12th going to belong to the 59 of Garrett Atwell.
13th tonight, the 7 of James Robinson. Outside of him, the number 48 machine of Kevin Linden. Row number 8, moving back a little further now, the 28 of Ryan Vaughn alongside the 31 of Eric Arnold.
Row 9, Brendan Mercer on the inside of that, 17th starting position in his number 29 machine. Scott Stenzel outside him at a 42 is going to be starting in 18th. In row 10, Glenn Campbell, the 44, occupies position 19, rounding out the top 20, the 51 of Doug Manning.
Rolling off in row 11, 21st tonight, the 92, Jason Lester. 22nd, the number 8 of Michael Gray. Row number 12 finds Mark Bratcher to the inside, and outside the number 68 of another driver who was close to winning, I believe at Michigan. It was Scott Simley.
Joey Jattina rolls off in the number 14 Joey Jattina Racing Machine in position 25 alongside the 4 of CJ LeVere. Mo McGuire in the 50 is going to roll off 27th, and 28th belongs to the 34 of Keith Brooks Jr.
Last car to take time in qualifying in the 6, it's Joe Hassert rolling away 29th. The rest of these guys on a provisional. 30th, the number 58 of Justin M. Wilson. 31st tonight, Steve Gottschalk in the 91. Rhett McBride in the 2 rolls 32nd. 33rd, Brandon Peterson. 34th, the 41 of Nathan Little. The rest of your starting field, Ed Williams Jr., John Abbott, Jamie Moore, and L.D. Sarabia shotgun on the field in 38th tonight. It's going to be 150 laps, 131.25 miles. This race could potentially be over with in quite a hurry. But it's the number 1 rolling away from position number 1 tonight. I'll tell you, Evan, this is going to get really, really good. Thomas George, the man in charge as they roll off of turn number 4. And that pace car getting ready to roll away and take that hard left turn onto the pit road. And check that, 2 pace laps, so we'll have one more here. Now lights go off on the pace car, and Thomas J. George, Evan, as we get set to go green, he's looking at a pretty solid run here tonight, and that number 1 machine, he starts from the best position of all on a short track.
And also keep in mind, Thomas J. George does not have a win yet in his 2014 campaign. He is 4th in the championship standings. You mentioned 97 points back. He does have 5 top 5s, 8 top 10s, no wins, and this is actually his first pole also in this 2014 campaign. So Thomas J. George going to pick up his first pole and hopefully translate that and put the number 1 machine in position number 1 after 150 laps and try to lock himself into that chase and pick up a win here this evening as we pace through 3 and 4. We're getting set for 150 laps under the lights in Iowa.
Yes, we are, and it's going to be Thomas J. George rolling away from the pole position. He will have the point, the preferred lane, all of that. Pace car is in as we get set to kick off the Gary Mercer 130. Green flag flies in the air, and Thomas J. George on the button. He pulls away almost 4 car lengths by the time they hit turn 1.
Yeah, that number 1 got a great start. Jonathan Cadell clear. Bobby Terrell is in a challenge for position number 3. It's the 21 of Matt Lacrosse who started 5th. He wants position number 3 to the inside of Bobby Terrell in 3 and 4. Slides up the racetrack to 9 Muscle Milk Chevy. Bobby Terrell can't hang on, and Matt Lacrosse can get a slide up into position number 3 after the complete lap 1.
And I'll tell you, a driver who did not get a good start at all was the number 66 of Brian Harvey. He dropped 2 spots on that initial start. He's about to lose at least 2 more as we've got trouble. 1 car sideways right in front of the championship leader, Eric Brundys. The 55 of Dan Murray as Brundys tries to dive in 3 wide. I don't know how he saved that car, Evan. That car was 50 degrees sideways and headed for the inside wall going down the back straightaway. He hangs on, and it's dicey already inside the top 10.
And that 66 of Brian Harvey, you mentioned at a bad start, was dropping back, was able to ride the high side around all of that confusion down the back straightaway. He slides back in to position number 4. Matt Lacrosse at a 21 machine is going to go, and he's going to sit in the number 3 spot. The top 3 have pulled away. Bobby Terrell trying to join them, and because of that big slip up for the 55 of Dan Murray, everybody kind of single files out side by side with the 94 of Eric Brundys battling the 60 of John Higman Jr. Higman is the challenger on the outside lane in the Joey Jattina Chevrolet. And also keep in mind a 59 of Garrett Atwell in this picture as well. Brundys holds him off forward.
Yes, he does right now. And John Higman, he started back almost outside the top 20. He's made a really nice rebound as we've got a little bit of smoke already in front of the leaders. I'll tell you, there's been beating and banging already. We're trying to keep everybody off of each other, but talking about John Higman Jr. right here, that number 60 machine, Evan, he started back almost at the end of the top 20. He's already moved into the 10th position. Nice run early for the number 60.
The battle is on for position number 2. The challenger, the 21 of Matt Lacrosse, to the inside on Cadell for about a lap there, and he can't hang on to it. The 15 pulls around strong at the outside at turn number 2, and now off of 4. The 15 of Jonathan Cadell is able to protect that position number 2. Here comes the 9 of Bobby Terrell starting to close in on these guys as well, as race leader Thomas J. George nearly a second over the rest of the field.
And that's an interesting point right there, because Thomas George, 2 laps ago, he only had about 2 car lengths lead. Oh, we got trouble down the back straightaway. Eric Arnold gets plowed into by the number 48 of Kevin Linden. He started spinning now. It's 4, 5, 6 cars involved. Trouble down the back, and at the entrance of turn number 3, Mark Bratcher's in it. Multiple cars involved. Caution flag going to fly at lap number 7 in the Garry Mercer 130 here tonight at Iowa. That started back, though, with the number 31 of Eric Arnold. Evan, just a lot of dicing early, and when this track clogs up, there's no place to go.
Yeah, and that 31 was doing what he needed to do. Eric Arnold was just riding around on the inside lane. The 28 of Ryan Vaughn on the outside lane got sideways, similar to what we saw the 55 of Dan Murray do in those opening laps. 28 got sideways, clipped Eric Arnold, and sent that 31 for a ride into the outside wall. 28 hit the inside wall. He stuck it in there. That wasn't the problem. The problem was Eric Arnold's machine sideways in front of the racetrack. He got nailed by the 48, and then a whole bunch of other cars stack him up trying to avoid it, which is led by, looks like the 58 of Justin Wilson. Didn't get the memo quite as quickly and split the gap on a 68, the 18, then got a shot from the 50. He ends up turning the 18. The 18's going to be involved. That's Mark Bratcher, 68 with a little bit of damage, but a big mess down the back straightaway. All starts from incidental contact. We have at least 6-7 cars that are going to walk away with some sort of piece of that, and they are all down pit roads for service.
And that's a shame. We were seeing some really close quarters racing, Evan, but we were seeing some very exciting racing early on in this one. Unfortunate to see it potentially end several guys' nights, especially, you know, we talk about some of these guys. Kevin Linden was trying to work his way through the field. The 31, he was trying to work his way forward inside, or to the top 15 rather. I mean, it's unfortunate because you've got all these guys who are showing some speed early in the going, and now they're stuck on pit road, and potential of damage right there. They could be done as far as challenging for a top result tonight.
And this isn't one of our smaller fields where you can get back going and you'll be in the 20s and you can try to work this thing through. This is a big field of cars. 35 drivers took the drop of the green flag out of the 38 of them that entered the sim and were put on the starting grid. So 35 cars, you figure you lose a lap, that is a long way back to the front, and your car's really never going to get back up to 100% once you're trying to work that damage repair. So at this point, you're trying to salvage. Only problem for you is this is a long amount to go. 140 plus laps with a damaged race car is going to be a painful and long night for guys like Eric Arnold, who sit down on pit road with some pretty substantial both front and rear end damage to their machines.
So we'll see how it shakes out. Should be going another lap or two. Waiting to see what the lights do. They stay up. Nope, they go out right here, and the field is going to double up behind the pace car. So next time by, we are going to go green flag racing, and the front row going to look just like it did when we started the afternoon. Thomas George and Jonathan Cadell on the front row. Matt Lacrosse, Bobby Terrell, row 2, Brian Harvey, Adam Benefiel, Michael Woolley, Dan Murray, Eric Brundys, John Higman Jr., the first 5 rows. And from that, again, you can't pick a favorite because all of them have been in contention in at least a couple of races at some point in this Full Throttle Cup Series season. And now, what we're looking at is a bunch of guys who really need their first win of the season. Cadell with 2, George looking for his first. But Again, a lot of this race to go. We're going to restart with 139 laps left. Pace car hits pit road. Thomas J. George right on the gas. Green flag back in the air. He falls right into line, pulls 2 car lengths ahead of the 15. Cadell going to have a challenge for second in turn 1. Here comes the 21 of Matt Lacrosse to the inside. Off turn 2, they'll be wheel to wheel for that runner-up spot.
21 Matt Lacrosse with the run on the inside down into turns number 3 and 4. 15 Cadell rides the high line. And a 21 of Matt Lacrosse going to complete the pass as he slides up in front of him at a corner number 4. Move Matt Lacrosse to second.
And I'll tell you, Matt Lacrosse almost had a look for the lead coming off turn number 4. He had a whale of a run. They're side by side for 4th. Behind him, Bobby Terrell locked on the bottom. Adam Benefield was trying to make it work on the high side. He can't make it. Slides back into line. The battle resumes for second in turns 3 and 4. Here comes the 15 of Cadell back on the 21 of Matt Lacrosse. He'll fall back into line, and the front 7 goes single file. First battle is for 8th between Michael Woolley and John Higman Jr. as they head back to 1 and 2.
The 60 of John Higman on the outside lane. 13 Michael Woolley inside, side by side, door to door. Down the back, straight away the 59 of Garrett Atwell sits in the wings on the high side. Now they spread out. 3 car lengths in between them, but still side by side off the corner. John Higman Jr. and the 13 of Michael Woolley gets sideways down to the grass. He hangs on to it, no caution, but he's going to drop back to behind the 4 of CJ LeVere.
It is dicey all through this field, and we are just 15 laps in. Trouble down the back straightaway again. Dan Murray turns hard into the inside wall. A lot of damage to that. No, sorry, the 66 of Brian Harvey. The car in the wall right there. They were racing right there in the battle for 6th place. Instead, Brian Harvey gets a big piece of the inside safer barrier. A lot of damage to that machine, and unfortunately, that looks like it's going to be night-ending damage, Evan.
Yeah, they have taken that machine behind the wall. He's taken it home. Now caution flag going to fly on the racetrack. Trouble down the back straightaway. Multiple cars involved into the inside wall. It's going to start with the 14 and the 41 at a corner number 2. Lap 16 is where the yellow's going to fly. It looks like the 41 machine just slid up a little bit. That is the 41 of Nathan Little sliding up a little bit on the 14 of Joey Jatina. Those 2 cars make contact. Jatina gets on the brakes, gets run over by the 18. 18 gets run over by the 44. And a whole bunch of cars attempt to scatter and end up piling into this and becoming innocent victims of that incident. Once again, at a turn number 2 down the back straightaway, is going to bring out our second caution of the race.
You know, we talk about it right here, Evan. This seems to be Calamity Corner tonight. Turn number 2 down the back straightaway. Looks like all of the leaders now going to come down pit road, led by Thomas George and Jonathan Cadell. But, you know, as these leaders come in to make their pit stops, we're seeing real quickly, you got to be careful over there in turn 2. But you've got to nail that exit perfectly, because if you're not in the right place on the back straightaway, you're in trouble fast, and there's no way to avoid it.
Leaders enter their pit stalls. The number 1 of Thomas J. George has an advantage after sitting on pole position. He has that last stall down on pit road, right side tires. He's going to go for 4. A tire strategy called for the 9 of Bobby Terrell. He's going to enter in 4th. 2 tires only is going to put Bobby Terrell up in front of Thomas J. George. Thomas J. George, the first car on 4 tires to exit the pit lane. And Brennan Mercer did not come down that last time by. He's currently a race leader. Appears that he's going to bring his Garry Mercer Trucking Chevrolet down this time by, which will put Bobby Terrell to the point on a 2-tire call.
I would not be so sure about that. I'm seeing about 4 or 5 other cars, I think, that have stayed out alongside Brennan. At least the 91 of Steve Gottschalk stays out. The 6, Joe Hassard, has not pitted yet. Eric Brundys did not pit, or at least if he did pit, Evan, it must have been either fuel only or 2 tires. I didn't see the 94 on pit road, but Bobby Terrell actually scored 6th across the start-finish line. So pretty big shakeup right here with 20 laps complete. A lot of different strategies going on.
Yeah, Brennan Mercer comes down, takes 4 tires. So Bobby Terrell, I believe, is going to move up to position number 5. And those guys were coming from deeper in the pack. So you saw Terrell pull a strategy card from 4th position. These guys that stayed out came from further back, so they did not initially show up on my scoring loop here, but it does appear Bobby Terrell will be position number 5 unless any of these other drivers decide to come down pit road. But Brendan Mercer did give up the lead that last time. He takes a 4-tire stop in his number 29 machine, and it appears that he is sitting back in the pack somewhere around 28th position for him. So this time by, you're going to get a better idea. Steve Gottschalk sits first, Joe Hassard second, Eric Brundy's third, Rhett McBride fourth, and then Bobby Terrell, he does indeed move up to 5th. The only car in front of Steve Gottschalk, who's our current race leader, is the 4 of CJ Laver. CJ currently sits 1 lap down, technically at the tail end of that lap. So CJ Laver will be waved around the pace car and go back, but he does sit 1 lap down at the moment.
And for Laver, that's a pretty big hole to dig out of. And Evan, I don't think we've really touched on it yet tonight, but we will under this first caution. There's not a lot of time in this race. We talk about 150 laps, 130 miles. When you're turning laps at a 22-second clip, you don't have a lot of time to get stuff done here at Iowa tonight.
Especially for those guys that need to try to get some damage repairs done. Typically, if you're trying to get that thing touched up, you take a look at a guy like the 14, Joey Jettina, sitting with damage. He can probably come down, and the sim will give him an option to get some optional repairs. So you'll want to come down when the field rounds through the front straightaway, but you have to leave before the pace car cycles back through. That's not a lot of time at this racetrack because it's so small, as the lights have the pace car have gone off, so we're getting ready to go back green to take lap 22. But yeah, the size of the track, not only does it limit the time, it also limits your ability to get damage fixed. Everything happens at a quicker pace here, which really makes you got to make quicker decisions right now. 29 cars sit on the lead lap. Last car is the 44 of Glenn Campbell, P29.
All right, so this is how they're going to line up for the restart. Steve Gottschalk, your race leader. Joe Hassard in the 6. Lines up to his outside. Row number 2, the championship leader, Eric Brundys, and the 2 of the second place man in points, Rhett McBride. Then the first guys on tires, Bobby Terrell and Thomas George, 5th and 6th. Benefiel, Cadell, Murray, Lacrosse, the rest of your top 10. Pace car makes the peel to pit road. And green flag going back in the air. A great start for the 91 of Steve Gottschalk. Joe Hassard in the 6 does not get a good start. He'll go to the high side. Eric Brundy's down low. And these guys with tires, they're going to be chomping at the bit. 3-car scramble for second off 2. Down the back and into turn number 3. They're going to go, trying to stick it 3 wide. It's not going to work. Brundy's on the bottom, trying to find some room to race. Bring it. The 2 of Rhett McBride right along with him. Back to turn number 1. The battle still rages for second. These 3 with no tires. And now Bobby Terrell trying to come up inside. That's the battle for 5th. We got about 5 cars within 3 car lengths of each other, all trying to go for that second position behind Steve Gottschalk.
The 94 of Brundy's has the nose on the 6 of Joe Hassard up high. Hassard at the line, and the Axe Energy Chevrolet on the high side. 94 of Brundy's is continuing to try to work that yellow line. The 6 continues to trace the outside retaining wall, and it looks like Hassard's going to get a run at a turn number 2. Move the 6 of Joe Hassard. He now has sole control of position number 2. It's the man dash now for 3rd. 2 wide, at least 2 rows deep, and here comes the 1 on those 4 fresh tires, Thomas J. George III.
I'll tell you right now, that was a power move that the 6 of Joe Hassard made to get that second position on the outside. I don't think it's going to pay off, though. The 1 of Thomas J. George is coming with a full head of steam. He's to the inside. Battle for P2. Off of turn number 4. Half a car length advantage to the 1 of Thomas J. George. He'll make the pass cleanly to the start-finish line. And now go to work chasing down your race leader, Steve Gottschalk. But he's trying to bring with him the 1 of George's, the number 9 of Bobby Terrell, who's now trapped behind the 94 of Eric Brundy's MP number 5.
Again, this mad dash continues. A lot of 2-wide action around position number 8 as everybody tries to sort themselves out. Now it looks like the 6 of Joe Hassard in 3rd has more company. The 94 of Brundy's from the high side to the bottom crosses him over, down in 1 and 2. He's going to clear the 6 off of the corner and down the back straightaway. Eric Brundy's up to 3rd. I don't think that 6 machine has the speed he needs to contend. That Ida Bobby Terrell going to pass him as well. And now a side-by-side battle begins to close in on them. The 85 of Adam Benefield trying to hang on over the 2 of Rhett McBride.
And I'll tell you, meanwhile, the fall off on these guys with no tires, they're starting to hit the proverbial cliff that we always talk about with the sim. The gap is down to 6 car lengths down the back straightaway. It's going to get even smaller. The one of Thomas J. George is eating up the advantage of the 91 of Steve Gottschalk. I think in about another 2 laps or so, we are going to have ourselves a battle for the lead. It was 3.5 car lengths across the start-finish line as Brundy's now 1.3 back. It's a 2-horse race down the back straightaway. Gottschalk trying to hang on, but Thomas George, big trouble.
Number 6, hard into the wall, the 15 of Jonathan Cadell also in it as the 6 is going to take responsibility. Now the caution is going to fly. Wow, 2 drivers in the top 10. I was going to say it's a hornet's nest from 5th on back. That 6 of Joe Hassert qualified 29th, the slowest time out of all the drivers to put down a qualifying lap. Just could not contend with our leaders, especially those that took fresh tires, and he clipped that wall once again at a turn number 2, comes down collecting a 15 machine, and both of them make heavy contact into the inside wall, back under yellow flag conditions.
That hornet's nest, Evan, that hornet's nest broke right there coming off turn number 2, and the swarm was unleashed, and unfortunately in the aftermath, Joe Hassert and the 15 of Jonathan Cadell get stung.
Yeah, that's a tough break. Now, it looks like a handful of our leaders down pit road. Thomas J. George has brought his Snap-on Chevrolet to the pit lane. Again, he's going to pull down into that last pit stall on pit road that he gets for getting pole position. He took 4 tires last time. Interesting to see if he's going to take only 2 right sides going up on the number 1 machine, and looks like he's going to stay in for 4 fresh tires. So he wants to use the tires as much as he can, so he has ended up coming down pit road. Matt Lacrosse in the 21 quick car machine for Fearless Racing has stayed out, and he will be scored your leader this time through 3 and 4 in the 21.
Check on this for me, Evan. I believe Lacrosse got 4 tires on the last... No, I guess he did not. He peels off and comes down pit road this time. I thought Lacrosse was one of the guys that got 4 tires on the last pit stop, but maybe he did not. That's an interesting call, although you do get a bonus point for leading a lap, so maybe he wants to get the point and maybe stay out of trouble for just a little bit in that 21 machine. But that's an interesting call. He got, I believe, 4 tires on the last pit stop. I don't know why you wouldn't stay out and get the track position right here, because we really hadn't even gone 3 laps under green flag conditions.
Well, this is a similar strategy that we saw Brendan Mercer do in the Garry Mercer Trucking Chevrolet. We saw Brendan stay out and, for all intents and purposes, lead that lap, maybe pick up a bonus point as everybody else came down pit road, and then he hit the pit lane. Interesting call. Matt Lacrosse now leaves pit road. It was a 4-tire call for the 21 crew, so it seems like tires are going to be in high demand here this evening, but this is going to drop him again way back towards the tail end of the lead lap. He's sitting behind the damaged 50 of Bo McGuire. Bo McGuire sits 27th at least, so interesting strategy call to say the least for Matt Lacrosse. He did start inside the top 5, and now he's going to find himself towards the back of the field after waiting that 1 extra lap to come down for service under our 3rd caution.
Yeah, so we talk about strategy, Evan, and now we're starting to see it. Interesting that it's at a short track like it is tonight, but, you know, anything can happen in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, and I think that's what makes this so much fun to watch here is, you know, Eric Brundy's, we've talked about him. He's back in the top 5, Mr. Consistency all season long. But the one of Thomas J. George has been very strong all night tonight. And I've got to say, I think he's positioning himself to be the favorite right now to pick up his first win of the season. That car has looked to be almost unbeatable, especially on these restarts.
And again, for the 2nd time in a row in front of our leader, you're going to say C.J. LeVere. He has stayed out. He went down 2 laps earlier in this race, and he sits right now, the last car on the lead lap. He actually sits on the racetrack in front of Thomas J. George. So once the lights go off for the iRacing Ford First Mustang pace car right there, the Ford's going to get waved around. C.J. LeVere is back square, so he will come up to the back end of the field, and he will be the last car on the lead lap. So CJ's worked that number 4 machine back to the lead lap. He does find himself 27th. However, the way and the pace that this race is going, I think he can take a little bit of a breather because the cautions seem to be breeding cautions here, and that would be come to expected. Maybe with 27 plus cars and not a lot of room on this Iowa Speedway, you got to expect a couple of those incidents. But interesting enough to note, Jacob, and really not one of those storylines that stuck out that it was so important and so blatant that we had to speak about a pre-race, was turn number 2 really being the bane of all these guys' existence. That's where we've seen all 3 wrecks so far.
Calamity Corner, as we say here on LSRTV. But the battle is going to be for the lead, and the pace car is going to make the hard left peel to pit road and leave the field in the hands of Thomas J. George and Steve Gottschalk. Green flag flies in the air. George gets a great restart. Gottschalk trying to fall in line in second. He will not be able to do that. Battle for second rages to turns 1 and 2. Bobby Terrell, and now it's going to be a battle for third because Eric Brundy's coming on the high lane of the racetrack. Brundy's in the 94, trying to make a move.
And the 9 machine of Terrell is on the bottom. It's 2 wide, at least 3 rows deep. Look at the run by Terrell. The 91 of Gottschalk stalls it out at a 4. Kind of loses some momentum. Now Terrell is challenging. This is the battle for second on back. Terrell on the inside lane pulls half a car length. The 91 of Gottschalk gets the run at a 2. They're door-to-door down into 3 and through 4. Looks like the 9 of Bobby Terrell. He's going to try to clear him off the corner. Slides up in front of him. Yes, he does. The Muscle Milk Chevy the second, and now the 85 machine. He wants third from Gottschalk. That's the Benefield machine on the bottom.
Yeah, and Adam Benefield in that number 85. We've not talked about him much in the top 5 yet tonight, but he's made the appearance now. Door-to-door, wheel-to-wheel. Going into turn number 3, Benefield on the bottom. Gottschalk trying to get a run up top because Benefield couldn't make it stick. He'll hang on, power down off turn number 4, and now go try to chase the 9 of Bobby Terrell because Benefield gonna make the move, or is he? Now he'll get the space to clear the 91 of Steve Gottschalk, and Gottschalk goes from second to 4th, and he may even lose that by the time we get another lap in the books. He goes way up next to the safer barrier and opens the door. Eric Brundy's in the 94 on the bottom, looking for P number 4.
That 94 to Brundy's is racy. He had 4th that time by the stripe. Can he clear the 91 Nerf Chevy of that Steve Gottschalk machine off of 2? Yes, he does. So Eric Brundy's sole control now of position number 2. As all this happened, Thomas J. George is trying to scoot away for the field, as now we finally single-filed him out in the top 5 side by side for 8th. The 13 of Michael Woolley under attack by the 58 of Justin Wilson. Wilson with the advantage that time by the start-finish line. The 13 is trying to pull strong on the outside in 1 and 2. It looks like he's going to do it. Michael Woolley trying to protect. It's door-to-door in the 3.
Into turn 3 and already off turn number 4 now, as it looks like about the top 7 or 8 cars fall single file. Michael Woolley trying to be racy there on the outside of the top 10. He grabs the 8th position away from Justin Wilson at the start-finish line, and now going to be looking to make a little bit of more hay right here. Meanwhile, Thomas J. George is checked out. He has got 0.8 of a second over the 9 of Bobby Terrell as the top 6 run single file off turn number 4, but Dan Murray in the 55, he's looking to try and be a little racy and challenge the number 2 of Rhett McBride.
I'm telling you, we got some contact. The 58 of Justin Wilson had a little love tap. The 13 of Michael Woolley gave him a little bit of a bump down the front straightaway. That was for position number 8. The 13 has dropped off a little bit. The 58 of Justin Wilson appearing to pull away now. The 59 of Garrett Atwell into the mix. Half a car length in contact. He gets into the 13 of Michael Woolley. Woolley hangs on the outside lane, but the 59 of Atwell nearly punted him, and now the 13 cuts him off, and now contact 42 into the outside wall. That's Scott Stenzel. Everybody scatters, a huge mess in 3.
Scott Stenzel with a ton of damage. The number 68 of Scott Simley involved up on the outside of the racetrack. He's got some damage to the rear end of that machine. Caution flag will fly at lap number 43, and big trouble, and that's all started right around Stenzel and the 13 of Woolley, and I believe that the 13 got pinched.
Yeah, the 59 gave the 13 of Woolley a shot. That's the 59 car of Garrett Atwell. Atwell gave that 13 a shot, looked intentional into one. 13 had to save it, and then showing his displeasure, he kind of cut down on the 59 to express that displeasure, which ended up having that 13 of Michael Woolley lower on the racetrack than what the 42 originally thought he would be. So next thing you know, the 42 of Scott Stenzel, he's coming up off the corner, and he comes right up into the 13 of Michael Woolley, where he was expecting that 13 to be higher up. So the 42 initiated the contact, but the 13 had a good 2 car lengths between him and the wall, which is what happened from that contact with a 59. Those two get hooked into the wall, and as everybody else takes evasive maneuvers down the back straightaway, the people behind him get into some trouble. It looks like the 15 machine, Jonathan Cadell, fast all night long. He gets turned, and again, that caused about a 6-car melee. The 21 of Matt Lacrosse picks up a little bit of damage as well. And again, another incident that is stemmed from something happening through one, and especially at a corner number 2, is going to put some damage on a lot of these fast race cars that have been running up front all night long. Thomas J. George on and off pit road, 4 tires and gas for the number 1.
And he's in the safest position of all because he's leading the race. And look who stays out again. I believe the 29 of Brennan Mercer at the head of this field one more time stays out. Yes, he does. He'll cycle through to be the race leader, at least on this lap. Not sure if he won't come down and pit next time by, but then 2 lap cars separating Mercer from George, Terrell, Benefield, Gottschalk, Brundys, and the rest of this field, with now 46 of 150 laps complete. And Evan, we've talked about it a couple times already, but I feel the need to bring up the 2 words again: Calamity Corner in turn number 2.
And it is. And again, all 4 of the incidents that we have seen have come from somebody getting a little bit looser, losing track of the cars around him in turn number 2. The 29 of Brendan Mercer, you mentioned, has cycled through to the number 1 position. We've seen him do this multiple times, and he does it again. He will come down pit road, which will put the number 1 of Thomas J. George back on point. We're starting to approach the 1/3 mark in this race. This time under the yellow flag, we come by to take lap number 47. So if there's going to be a night where Thomas J. George breaks through, it looks like it is tonight. He picked up his first pole, and again, he still is looking for his first win on the 2014 campaign to give him a shot at the RSR Championship when we head into Chicagoland later on in the season. Thomas J. George, that one machine, I don't think we've really seen anybody, Jacob, be able to get up there and run with him.
Not yet. And I challenge somebody to get up there and run with him. I think maybe Bobby Terrell in the 9 has the best shot right now. That 9 machine has looked like he's been able to stay with the 1 on sheer pace, but unfortunately has been caught in a lot of traffic and has not been able to get up there. This time, though, he'll start alongside when we go back to green flag racing. That's going to be a big key, as I think we're about ready to get lights out on the pace car maybe this time. We'll see if they go 1 to go at the flag stand, but keep an eye on that number 9 Muscle Milk machine on this restart, as he'll be looking to go to the front.
A couple cars have left the racing action here this evening. Going to get you caught up to date on them. 48 of Kevin Linden has retired. He will finish position number 35. Brian Harvey is out of this race also in 34th. 33rd, Nathan Little in the 41, no longer on track. Keith Brooks Jr. in 32nd is out of this competition. Joe Hassard, who is running up front in the number 31st position, and his number 6 is no longer in the action. So 31st through 35th, those back 5 cars no longer in the racing action. A couple cars several laps down. Ryan Vaughn sits 15 laps back in 30th, and then a handful of guys 1 or 2 laps back as we get ready for another green flag here coming through 3 and 4.
Yeah, we do, and Thomas J. George going to be the man on the gas as the pace car going to look again to make that hard left turn, finishing up our 4th caution of the night. Getting ready, green flag in the air. Thomas J. George, immediately the battle for second. Adam Benefield got a great start, Bobby Terrell did not. They're side by side for second, down into turn number 1. Meanwhile, back in the pack, the battle's on about 6th place as the 55 of Dan Murray trying to overhaul the number 2 of Brett McBride, and he will.
Battle for second rages on the 85 of Benefield with the advantage through 3 and 4. Here comes Terrell. Going to get that run at a corner number 4. Drag race to the stripe. Advantage is to the 85, but barely. Down into 1 and 2. The 85 of Benefield hits that yellow line. Bobby Terrell waves him on by. And the 85 of Adam Benefield with some help from the 9 of Bobby Terrell as Terrell waves him around. Will move up to position number 2. So the battle in the top 3 is single filed out side by side. Multiple rows deep for 4th on back. Gottschalk has it at a 94. Eric Brundy's once again. He is no stranger to trying to challenge, and he's aggressive on that inside.
Yes, he is. But I remind you, Evan, we were talking last week at Daytona at the end of this race. Scott Stenzel picking up his first career win. Would you believe who else does not yet have a win in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series? Your leader. Oh, we got trouble. Here at lap number 52, we got another crash, and Evan, I'll tell you, we just can't get more than about 5-6 laps in, and once again, that back straightaway is exactly where things happen.
And we mix it up a little bit. It's down into 3 this time, and it looks like it is the 60 machine of John Higman Jr. and his Joey Chetino Racing Chevrolet goes to the inside, and looks like he may have just slightly pushed up the hill. Looks like the 59 did a pretty good job of holding his line. The 59 has been in a couple of these incidents so far this evening, and that is Garrett Atwell's machine. But Garrett Atwell looks like he was holding his line very good, and the 60 might have just slightly overdrove it, and John Higman Jr. gets into the 59. Higman hangs on, and a couple of innocent victims as the 59 of Atwell goes into the fence. The 2 car right there with nowhere to go. That is Rhett McBride. Tough break for him as he tries to close in on Brundy's in the championship, and the 92 machine also going to get a piece of it. Jason Lester collected at his Advocare Ford Fusion. So caution back out again this time, however, in turns 3 and out of turn 4. Garrett Atwell getting turned. He's going to have to come down once again for service.
You can argue it ended down in turns 3 and 4, but it got tight there at the end of the back straightaway. So I guess we can't call it turn 2 this time, but I'll tell you, Evan, what I'm seeing a recurring pattern here. Whether it's off of turn number 2 or whether it's at the end of the back straightaway going into turn number 3, the 2 ends of that backstretch, things pinch up in a hurry. There's not a lot of space. It gets narrow coming off and going down into these corners, and that's where we're seeing a lot of problems, because when this racetrack narrows up, these guys are fighting for every inch of room that they can get, and it's just not there.
And again, that back straightaway is so short. You take a look at some of these side-by-side battles, and if you're on the outside lane and he gets maybe half a car length on you, you should nearly clear him. Down into 3, you're going to get the run out at corner number 2, and you're going to be going down the back straightaway. However, once you do so, by the time you get in that run, you're in turn 3. There's no room for those guys on the outside lane to work it. That back straightaway is so short, you really can't catch your breath, and you really got to be fighting all the way in there. So that really kind of adds to those 2 wide action, is the fact that that outside lane cannot use that run down the hill at a corner number 2, which really makes everything tighten up. Again, this isn't a racetrack where you're going to be running down on the yellow line in a single file line. That's not the fastest way around. Fastest way around there, right in that groove, is about the middle of the racetrack. Everybody's going to be battling for that, and that's what makes it so close. You mentioned on the entrance to and the exit of that backstretch.
I want to go back to a point I had just started to make before that caution flag flew here, just at lap number 52. Last week at Daytona, we were talking about Scott Stenzel picking up his first career full throttle win. Would you believe who else but the leader, Thomas J. George, does not yet have an RSR Full Throttle Cup Series victory? Of all the times we've seen him up at the front of the field this year, he's not been to victory lane yet in RSR competition. He's actually looking for win number 1 tonight here at Iowa, and boy, right now he's got the car to beat.
And again, we mentioned, and you talk about wild card races where you can see a different driver sneak away and get the win, would be Daytona, which is where we were last week. But again, we also mentioned Iowa Speedway has the possibility of becoming that race. It's a short track. You can be a little bit more aggressive, and as we've seen, anything can happen. We have guys up there in the championship, guys with multiple wins that have ended up in the fence. So you keep saying Thomas J. George, he's in the safest spot he is because he's going to be in front of it all. up there in the number 1 position. He's doing solid, and again, we really haven't seen anybody that has been able to race with him. There's a couple guys you touched on, Bobby Tyrrell. Tyrrell has a fast machine as the lights go off on the iRacing Ford First Mustang pace car, but also Eric Brundy's in the 94 car, I think, is also going to be very strong here in these latter stages. Entering tonight as the championship leader, 3 wins, the most out of anybody else in his 2014 campaign. We've seen him not being afraid to be aggressive down on that inside lane. That's where he's going to be starting, keeping out for this 94 as we move forward to and closing on that halfway point.
And this is how it's going to line up, and we're coming to complete lap number 56, so we've got 94 to go when we get this restart. Thomas J. George, your race leader. Adam Benefield second. Bobby Tyrrell third. Steve Gottschalk, Eric Brundy's, Dan Murray, your front 3 rows. Then it's Justin Wilson, Doug Roth, a new name, Jason Lester, Brandon Peterson, your top 10. Pace car is in, field in the hands of number 1 again, and Thomas J. George. Right on the gas, green flag goes back in the air as everybody streaks away, and the battle's going to be about for 7th place by the time they get to turn number 1. But we've got the battle for 2nd, Bobby Tyrrell and Adam Benefield renewing it once again.
And Benefield's going to win it on that outside lane, gets that run down the back straightaway. Now the 9 of Bobby Tyrrell has to contend with that 94 machine. Eric Brundy's took a look to the outside, couldn't quite get it done, and everybody in the top 10 single file for a moment at that start-finish line. Battle outside of the top 10, the 68 machine of Scott Simley going to get around the 92 of Jason Lester for P11.
How about a call right now to that petty blue and red number 43 machine of Doug Roth in 8th place, battling for 7th right now with Dan Murray. That machine, we've not talked about him yet all night long. He's having a very nice run inside the top 10, taking advantage of some of the misfortunes of some of these fast guys. He has made some very nice moves as we've got trouble off turn number 2. Big crash, 3, 4, 5 cars involved. I saw the 21 of Matt Lacrosse, the 92 of Jason Lester. It continues. Michael Woolley involved. Middle of the back straightaway, about 7 more cars. That started off of turn number 2. And for the 5th time tonight, we are under caution at lap number 59. A lot of trouble. And in just a few moments, I think we're going to be able to get another look at it. But for right now, and there's the replay right here, and how this started, the 21, the 13, all battling in it. And again, Evan, it gets narrow, and everybody just ran out of space.
Yeah, it starts going into turn 1. It's the 92 car on the outside lane. Jason Lester working a little bit of damage. 15 of Jonathan Cadell goes to pass him, and the 92 tries to get back in line. The 15 gets on the brakes. 92 checks up. Next thing you know, here comes the 7 machine on the inside lane of James Robinson. Robinson gets into Jason Lester's machine. The 21 picks up some damage, and then Lester sideways in the groove. The 50 with a hard lick to the outside wall. The 91, or the 31, is not happy as he gets turned by the 13 machine of Michael Woolley on the bottom. And again, half those cars that get in that incident happen from them trying to avoid the initial contact.
With that, under caution, we're going to take a break here, completing lap number 60. We'll be back to LSRTV in just a few moments. And Thomas J. George, your race leader from Iowa Speedway. This is the Garry Mercer 130 for the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series right here on LSRTV.
A race car has a soul, and the Audi 90 Quattro had a very special soul. When we came to the States with this car, nobody could believe what we can achieve with this car. Small engine, 5-cylinder, it's a German saloon car. We knew that we can only win the race by using all the car has.
The green flag is out. And here we go.
The 5-cylinder engine was it was a jewel. It was lighter and it was more compact. You put your foot on the throttle and you could use the power instantly.
Getting set at lap 64. Green flag back in the air as we are back here on LSRTV to Iowa Speedway. The Garry Mercer 130 getting back underway just prior to halfway. Thomas J. George, your leader, got a great jump on the restart. Bobby Terrell and Eric Brundies. The rest of your top three is right now on this restart. We know it's the best time to make up positions. They're going side by side. A couple of really good battles back in the pack around about 7th place. Dan Murray, the man on the move, and how about a guy who was almost a lap down and was a lap down at the start of this race, now moving inside the top 10, the 4 of C.J. LeVere, having a great rebound. He's up now battling for 8th place, just took it away from Brandon Peterson.
And Peterson got the wall there in 1 and 2. He's able to pull it off, keep on going. The 55 of Dan Murray on the inside, and the 43 of Doug Roth has lost a lot of speed at a 40. He's going to cause a checkup at a 91 of Steve Gottschalk side by side. Now the 55 of Murray wants the 5th spot from Doug Roth. Roth's going to get the run at a quarter number 2 and will hang on for now. But there goes C.J. LeVere trying to get 7th from Gottschalk. Door to door as a swarm of cars behind him. CJ can't clear the 91. He's going to have to wait till another shot at it at 1 and 2.
I'll tell you what a rebound that number 4 machine of C.J. LeVere has had so far tonight. He's got the preferred lane as they're 3 wide behind him. The 51 of Doug Manning had to back out of it in a big way. Adam Benefield's back there. Scott Simley's back there. Benefield, I think, may have pitted here during one of the caution flags recently, because we saw him inside the top 5, but he's now trying to battle back up to 11th, wants 10th away from the 68 of Scott Simley. He's going to try and get it down in turns 1 and 2, but meanwhile, again, that battle rages for 7th. C.J. LeVere still to the inside of Steve Gottschalk.
And side by side shaping up in front of them as the 55 of Dan Murray wants a shot at the 43 of Doug Roth. However, CJ is still on the inside, side by side with a 91 of Steve Gottschalk. Door to door, these two, and they both ride the middle groove. The 4, he can pull there in the middle of the corner, but the 91 of Gottschalk uses that run off right there to bring it back in. CJ is going to have to really dive it down here into the corner one of these times. If he wants to clear that Nerf Chevrolet, he gets close this time, but not quite enough as that battle rages on. C.J. LeVere having the position at the stripe, and now he will clear the 91 of Steve Gottschalk through 1 and 2, move C.J. LeVere into position number 7.
We talk about surprises so far tonight. We're 5 laps away from halfway. A couple of guys in the top 10 we've not talked about much tonight until right now. The 43, Doug Roth, up to P5. The 4 of C.J. LeVere was a lap down 15 laps into this race. He's now running 7th. Brandon Peterson's had a nice drive up to the top 10. About to have that taken away by the 85 of Adam Benefield, who clears him actually for 9th position. But so Peterson hanging on to the back end of the top 10 has had a nice run. And even Scott Simley in 11th. We've not talked much about him yet tonight. He's trying to make a run at a top 10 position here. Lap number 72 going 13. Up on the board.
13 car having trouble down the front straightaway. Michael Woolley once again through the grass, and he will catch that pit road wall after trouble out of corner number 4 in a side-by-side battle. And the 2 car also lost it, so both the 13 and the 2 of Rhett McBride spinning out of 4, no caution. Green flag remains out.
And that's nice. That's very good to see right there, because we're coming up on halfway, and I, for one, did not want to see a caution right here coming on to halfway. Side-by-side battle now shaping up down the back straightaway for 5th. Dan Murray in the 55, working to the inside of the 43 of Doug Roth. This battle now about 2.5 seconds behind the front 4. Thomas J. George, meanwhile, a 7-car length advantage. Murray can't complete the pass, and that's going to open the door on the inside for a hard-charging C.J. LeVere.
DJ is on a move, and I don't know how he lost those 2 laps earlier in the race, but ever since he worked back up, he played it cool. He has kept his car clean, which can give him a real big upper hand over some of these guys that may have picked up a little bit of damage and are trying to work their cars with that, maybe a little bit of a toe knockdown, but the Florida CJ LeVere is strong. How about the 85? Adam Benefield back on the offense after losing a couple spots to the inside and can't hold it down, and Dan Murray still wants 5th from Doug Roth. He's been going at it since the restart. To the inside again, the 43 of Doug Roth, and now caution, gonna fly as trouble down the back straightaway, the 18 into the inside wall. That is Mark Bratcher. A single car incident, self-spin at a 2 at an assy lick to the inside retaining wall back under the yellow flag.
That's been throwing me off all night because last week at Daytona, Bratcher was in the 5, now he's in the 18. Of course, we're seeing things change all the time, and we're also seeing cautions all the time tonight. Under caution for the 6th time, just past halfway. Let's take a look at a Garry Mercer Trucking mid-race report and take a look down the leaderboard. Coming to complete lap number 77, Thomas J. George, your race leader. Bobby Terrell rides 2nd. 3rd, the 94 of Eric Brundy's. 4th, the number 58 of Justin Wilson. And 5th right now, the 43 of Doug Roth. 6th is the 55 of Dan Murray. 7th, after the 2 laps down early in the race, C.J. LeVere, Adam Benefield. 8th, 9th, Steve Gottschalk. And 10th to Brandon Peterson.
And they all are coming down the pit lane for service, led by Thomas J. George. The Snap-on Chevrolet has been favoring those 4 fresh Goodyears every time in. Terrell, who sits 2nd, has been known to take 2 tires. Right sides up on all of our leaders, and it looks like it's going to be 4 tires at least for the top 3. Thomas J. George is going to complete his service. Does he make it out? Oh, barely hangs on. Bobby Terrell put up a fight for 2nd. Can't quite get it done. He'll leave 2nd. Brundy's will retain position number 3, the 58 machine. Looks like he made up some ground on pit road. Justin Wilson entered 20th on pit road, and it is a 4-tire stop. He's going to pick up a lot of spots.
Yeah, he is. That was a fantastic pit stop, and we'll try and take another trip down the leaderboard. No more they get done here. I thought maybe a few more guys would stay out, but instead, when they cycle around, we'll give you a true mid-race update. And right now, as they're cycling around, a new leader, the number 8 of Michael Gray, takes the lead for the first time tonight. The 1 of Thomas J. George, 2nd. 3rd, Bobby Terrell. 4th, Eric Brundy's. 5th, as you mentioned, Justin Wilson. 6th, the 43 of Doug Roth. 7th, Matt Lacrosse in the 21, rebounding after being involved in a caution. 8th is Dan Murray. 9th, C.J. LeVere. And 10th, Adam Benefield.
And I don't know how this will work out if the 8 machine is going to stay out. He could very easily be on a strategy that we've seen Brennan Mercer play, that we've seen Matt Lacrosse play, where they stay out and come down pit road for service a lap or 2 behind the cycle. And now Michael Gray has announced that over the radio that he has stayed out to get that extra point. He's going to bring it down pit road. I was going to say that 8 machine has its fair share of front end damage. So he's coming down pit road. That will relinquish the lead once again to Thomas J. George out of the corner as pace car goes by the start-finish line to take lap number 80. Lights will remain on, so at least 2 more cycles around the speedway before we get the green once again.
All right, so with that, let's take a look a little further down this leaderboard. That's going to move that the 91 of Steve Gottschalk into the top 10. So once it all cycles through, 11th will belong to Scott Sintley, 12th to Jonathan Cadell, 13th Brandon Peterson, 14th John Higman, 15th to Brennan Mercer, 16th to Scott Stenzel, 17th Atwell, 18th James Robinson, 19th Ed Williams Jr., and 20th Evan Tourette McBride. Let's see what else is going on here. We've not got many more cars than that on the lead lap.
Yeah, this field is slowly starting to shrink down. 25 cars currently being scored on the lead lap. Last car on the lead lap. And Tough Break, the 13 of Michael Woolley, has had a couple of self spins, but he's also been taken out from a couple of close calls at incidents at, again, turn number 2 that weren't necessarily entirely his fault. And then again, just adds to the list of guys that are fast. We've seen them up front and end up stuck in the back with damaged machines. So a lot of comers and goers, a lot of guys that really snuck up into this top 10. Guys like, again, Doug Roth did a solid job of doing so. Brundys is competitive, but also a lot of guys that started up in the top 10 and that we had seen battling inside, you know, top 10, top 5 positions, Jacob, that have been caught in incidents and are either out of this race entirely or are still trying to work their way back up through the field with a little bit of a beaten and battered race car.
That's absolutely right, and now the field's getting ready to double up for a restart, and just like he's been virtually all night long, the one of Thomas J. George going to be the man on point with Bobby Terrell to his outside. Pace car, as they come off turn 4, going to make that peel to pit road one more time, and Thomas J. George ready to be on the button. Eric Brundys is right there with him. Green flag in the air. We're back underway, and Brundys got a pretty good restart. He's going to be on the hammer, trying to battle for position. No, now he'll fall back into line in third. Justin Wilson in the 58, trying to be the man on the move. He's going for third down the back straightaway. Got a great run on Brundys.
Wilson to the bottom. Can he make it? Sticking 3 and 4. 94 pushes up. He can't clear him, and Wilson really guys up the racetrack. He hangs on to it, but nearly gets into the left rear of Eric Brundys. Brundys hangs on and hangs on to third. Justin Wilson slides back in fourth. The side-by-side battle behind them. The 4 of LeVere going the wrong direction on the outside lane, and it's the 55 of Dan Murray on the inside who wants to capitalize.
Now let's clarify, LeVere, believe it or not, is going the right direction on the outside. His most recent pass was to the outside. Doug Roth falling back in that number 43 machine. He's fallen from 5th back to 8th. LeVere has made the move up to 6th place and going to try to battle a little bit more. He's now side by side with Dan Murray. He was looking to catch Matt Lacrosse in the 21. Instead, Lacrosse, really the man on the move, Evan. He was involved in one of our earlier race caution flags. He's back up to the top 5.
And you can see the damage on the front side and the right front of his number 21 Quick Car Chevrolet. But his teammate, the 4, CJ LeVere, right on his back bumper. Those two cars in positions number 5 and 4. How about Bobby Terrell? He's hanging tough with Thomas J. George. Looks like he might have caught the wall at a corner number 4, but Terrell within 0.2 of a second. He's hanging tough with Thomas J. George. No one's been able to do that tonight. He wants this thing to go green because he might try to run him down.
Trying to run him down right now, but still, we watched several of these side-by-side battles going on back in the pack. Now, the front 7 or so have fallen single file. The first side-by-side duel as they work back to turn number 1 is the 85, Adam Benefield, the man on the move, going side-by-side with the 43 of Doug Roth. Roth going the wrong direction, Benefield going the right direction.
Adam Benefield is always one of those guys that we see on the inside lane trying to make something work. Much like Eric Brundys, he's not afraid to throw it down there into the corner and try to make something work. This time through 1 and 2, the 43 of Roth is way off base. Up against the fence, the 85 is going to clear him and be able to retain position number 8. It is all single file in front of him as Doug Ross slides back in line behind him as well. And just for a moment,
trouble in turn number 2. And down the back straightaway now, we've got one car nosing into the inside wall.
Cadell.
That's Jonathan Cadell, the number 15 machine, once again having problems. He gets it righted in the right direction, but going to lose a ton of positions, probably a lap right here. Cadell, third in points coming into the night, just can't get anything to go right here.
And that was, again, another unforced error. Self-spin at a corner number 2 for Jonathan Cadell. His machine is absolutely torn up, and right now he dropped to the end of the lead lap at least as race leaders start to close in on him. And race leader Thomas J. George starting to find a rhythm, pulling one more tenth over Terrell. It is 3 tenths that separate the top 2 this time at a corner number 4, this time by the stripe. 60 laps remain.
60 to go. It's getting down to crunch time. Hard to believe we're saying that, but pretty soon, 50 laps to go. Going to happen in a hurry.
Caution for Jason Lester down the front straightaway, the 92, an unforced self-spin at a corner number 4. He's going to go for a ride through that infield grass. And if we can get an onboard, the 8 of Michael Gray on the inside lane, sees the 92 spin in front of him, has to slam the brakes, jerk it to the right, and amazingly avoids that incident and doesn't turn the 51 of Doug Manning, who was right next to him. So good wreck avoidance for these guys, but another tough break. And again, fast drivers, experienced drivers, just losing it on corner exit.
And that's very surprising. I mean, you look at some of these guys, especially Cadell. I mean, a self spin from the guy third in points. We don't talk about these things because they just don't happen. It's really, really showing how tough this racetrack is tonight as we see 4 or 5 guys try to fake off pit road right here. Matt Lacrosse actually coming down pit road from 5th place, but Evan, this is exactly what we were talking about at the top of the show. This track hard to drive and can take a bite out of some of the best in the business, and that's what we've seen tonight.
That's exactly what we've seen, and that really makes you got to put testament to what Thomas J. George has been able to do, being so consistent. You could be fast on a restart and use up your stuff, but Thomas J. George is just so smooth. He doesn't give this racetrack a chance yet to take a bite at him. Now, to be fair, in the past we have seen guys on racetracks where corner exit has been a problem with the current tire model and the iRacing service, and just like that, they can lose it out of the corner in the closing laps, and all of their work goes down the drain. So this race, again, is far from over. But right now, Thomas J. George doing what he needs to do, and he looks relaxed up front.
He looks very relaxed. He's led more than half of the 150 laps tonight. We've only run 93 laps so far, and I think he's led about 80 of them so far tonight. He has been so dominant. I think only the time when you had a couple guys, Gottschalk and others, stay out on a pit stop and make George have to work for it. I think that's the only time under green flag conditions that he's relinquished the lead, Evan, all night long.
And it's going to be interesting to see how these guys approach. Well, obviously now past the halfway point, currently working 94 of 150 laps under the yellow flag, about our 7th or 8th yellow, I think, so far, as we really haven't seen a green flag run. And it's, once everybody spreads out, it's not that all the incidents are coming from car-to-car contact. We have seen our fair share of those, but this racetrack, you're racing the track more than you're racing your opponents. We are working our 8th caution, 35 laps of yellow in the works right now. But once we get into 50 laps to go, I don't know if you're going to be able to avoid these yellows, because everybody's only going to turn up that intensity, and it's only going to get more exciting. They're only going to throw it down there and on the bottom harder. We've seen guys do that. They slide up, get close. I feel like we're going to see a lot more of that as the race goes on. It's going to get a lot more aggressive. And this race is far from over. A lot of things can still change here.
Oh, it's very far from over. I think the opening bell has only just now rung, and we're going to see a whole lot more in these final 55 laps. That's what it's going to be when we get the green flag. And Thomas J. George, Bobby Terrell, Eric Brundys, Justin Wilson, C.J. LeVere up to 5th now in that number 4 machine. We've talked about the charge of that machine back from 2 laps down at the start of this race. If he gets a podium run tonight, that right there will be cause for celebration for that driver of the number 4 machine, but it might be celebration for the number 1, Thomas J. George, leading the field as we get set to go racing. I thought we were getting ready to get the green flag here. I guess not, so we'll go around one more time and try to double it up and do it again.
You know, one of our longer yellows of the night as crews take care of it down the back straightaway, but lights have now gone off on that Ford First Mustang pace car up at the front of the field. 25 cars is still the magic number. Those are the cars that remain on the lead lap, and 26 cars remain on the racetrack. Only driver still rocking and rolling that is not on the lead lap, Jason Lester, 2 laps down into 92. He has had a rough night and has severe front end damage. A lot of these guys torn up are really just riding around. They've been able to stay on the lead lap because we haven't knocked out a long green flag stint. If we see it maybe 20 laps on the green, I can guarantee you a lot of these guys are going to drop well off that lead lap. So they're hanging on for now, hoping they can pick up a couple more spots as a couple guys leave this race from incidents, but we're getting ready to go back green.
Yeah, we are. Pace car makes the hard left peel to pit road. Thomas J. George, Bobby Terrell, your front row as they've been all night long. Green flag back in the air. C.J. LeBaire and Eric Brundy's on the inside. Hard on the gas. The challenge is going to be about for fourth place. Bobby Terrell did not get a good restart. That's going to open the door for LeBaire in the 4 off turn number 2. They're side by side, wheel to wheel down the back straightaway.
Bobby Terrell was caught sleeping on that restart. He's on the outside right now. The 4 of C.J. LeBaire is the challenger, and LeBaire is going to pull in line. Terrell will recover to 4th place, but he got blown out of the water from Eric Brundy's. Down the first car on the inside trying to challenge Doug Roth, and what a move. He slides right up in front of Adam Benefield and on the bumper the 55, and that causes a checkup in 3. And a 43 of Doug Roth is trying to make it work. Now the 85 of Benefield is going to cross him over out of 4. This battle is for 7.
Yeah, Benefield gave him a shot right there. He was not at all impressed, I don't think, with that move that the 43 of Roth pulled, taking over the 7th position. And now Roth having to deal with Benefield one more time. Meanwhile, we may soon have a battle for the lead. Eric Brundy's only about a car length back of race leader Thomas J. George. I think this is the most pressure that anybody's put on the number 1 all night long. It's just over a car length, and Justin Wilson's now moved up to 3rd, of course, with Terrell's struggles there on that restart. So now we've got a couple new players and the championship leader looking for his 4th win of the season. And we know, Evan, that Eric Brundy's, he doesn't play just to get a top result. He plays to win.
The 55 of Dan Murray on the move to the inside around.
Oh, big trouble. Start-finish line. One car upside down. The 51 of Doug Manning slides all the way down to turn number 1 on his lid. Gets it righted. Big trouble. And a caution for the 9th time tonight as we complete lap number 100. Doug Manning, what a ride he went for, and slid most of the length of the front straightaway from just before the start-finish line all the way down to the entrance of turn number 1 on his roof.
And it's going to be a system of events that is going to cause this. It's the 51 of Manning who has a run on the inside of the 21 of Matt Lacrosse. Lacrosse loses a little bit of speed and they make contact. That's what puts this 51 in the situation that he's in. He slides up just as the 7 starts to come down, and as James Robinson just comes down a little bit, hooks that 51 into the fence. Everybody else is able to avoid it this time. Luckily, they all don't pile in trying to get around it, but back under yellow and heavy contact, that 51 is torn up, and it looks like Doug Manning is going to call it quits.
I would too after that, and most of the leaders going to come in. A few going to stay out. George Brundy's among them. I think at least the top 2, and a couple of other takers staying out. The 60, John Higman Jr., Brennan Mercer stays out again. The 21 of Matt Lacrosse stays out. So 5 or 6 of them going to stay out under this caution. Most of everybody else coming in for tires into the top off the fuel tank. As for us, we're going to take a commercial break right here after a very hard crash, putting us under the 9th caution of the evening. But we'll be back for the conclusion of the Garry Mercer 130. You're watching LSRTV and coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. Stay with us.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, live from Iowa Speedway tonight, the Garry Mercer 130 here on LSRTV. Jacob Seelman and Evan Pasoko in tonight's broadcast booth, gearing up for another restart after 9 cautions. This one the most serious, as we had cars going up and over. We'll catch you up on who all was involved in just a moment. Right now, the green flag flying back in the air. Thomas J. George running away with it once again. Eric Prundy's the championship leader. Falling in line in position number 2. Matt Lacrosse in third now. John Hickman Jr. trying to fall in for fourth. The top 7 staying out. The first guy on fresh tires, the 58 of Justin Wilson. He's trying to go for 5th in turn 3.
Wilson on the bottom to the inside of the 42 of Scott Stenzel, side by side in front of him. The 29 of Mercer is slowed as the 58 go to the bottom. No, he's going to get held up for just a moment. Brendan Mercer in his way as Mercer runs the bottom, who is just side by side with John Hickman Jr. For a moment, they single file out down the back straightaway. They're side by side for 9th on back. First challenger, the 9 of Bobby Terrell. 3 wide as the 59 of Atwell goes to the middle. He backs out of it as Terrell tries to get it from the 42.
Battle for seconds at turn number 1, or it was for a moment. Matt Lacrosse took a look on the 94 of Eric Prundy's, but could not make it stick and falls back single file. Meanwhile, the battle for 5th getting renewed down the back straightaway. Justin Wilson in the 58 to the bottom. The 29 of Brendan Mercer up top. Wilson going to prevail on fresh tires. Coming up off turn 4, he gets a little bit sideways, but hangs on to it. He's going to have the power down to grab that spot. Actually, no, he doesn't. Mercer officially at the line, hangs on to the 5th position by about a quarter tenth, but Justin Wilson, I think, going to get him this time down the back straightaway. He got a really good run into turn number 3, and I don't think the 29 is going to be any match on old tires. Oh, Wilson, sideways off turn 4.
What a save. Justin Wilson sideways off the corner just as he was about to clear the 29 of Mercer. He's back on track now in nearly a 3-wide battle. The 78 nearly gets hooked. That's Peterson on the outside. It's a 2-car battle right now for position number 8. The 78 wants to make it a 3-car race. That is the 78 of Peterson. Gives Stenzel a little bit of a tap out of 4th.
I'm still trying to catch my breath after that, but let me tell you, the guy that was really the beneficiary of the 58 almost spinning out the 9 of Bobby Terrell, now he's the one that's trying to challenge Brennan Mercer for position number 5. He worked to the inside and is still working down to the inside along with the 55 of Dan Murray off of turn number 4. Meanwhile, Wilson trying to rebound around the number 42 of Scott Stenzel. That battle rate is back to turn number 1, and it's almost 3 wide again. The 43 of Doug Roth and the 78 of Brandon Peterson really tight down the back straightaway.
And that 78 has been pinned up high and nearly put in the wall several times. Brandon Peterson, the furniture row machine, trying to get around the 42 of Stenzel, the 43 of Doug Roth on the inside. Oh, don't make that 3 wide. 78 thought about it for a moment. He slides back in line behind Stenzel as this battle rages on. Doug Roth trying to clear the 42. Can't get it done. And now caution on the racetrack. We got trouble back in the pack out of the corner. Jason Lester has some damage. Glenn Campbell in the 44 is going to be the cause of it. Looks like he had some help in too.
So, for the 10th time in 115 laps, we are under the yellow flag here at Iowa Speedway. Thomas J. George still your race leader. Eric Brundy's getting a little racier, and so is Matt Lacrosse up to 3rd. He's had a really nice rebound. He was involved in one of our earlier cautions, Evan. I'll tell you, though, I think that might have been about the longest green flag stretch we've had all night long. We actually went 9 laps before the caution came out.
And again, it's not going to be a wreck in that melee of cars going 2, 3 wide, several rows deep. The caution, once again, comes from 2 cars that are back in the pack. The 15 of Jonathan Cadell is not happy. Him and the 44 are exchanging some words under here, the caution flag, as Cadell and the 44 of Campbell made some contact. Now the 44 is wrecking the 15 under the caution flag. The 44 machine pinned that throttle there under the yellow just now. Glenn Campbell giving that 15 a heck of a shot there in 3 and 4 under the yellow. A lot of radio transmissions going between Jonathan Cadell's camp and Glenn Campbell, but these 2 drivers not happy after that incident there that happened in turns 1 and 2, and this might not end here under this yellow flag because both drivers very upset.
I don't think the officials are going to take too kindly to that one. I know this is just sim racing, but there's a couple of things that you don't do, and one of the pretty sacred unwritten laws of motorsports, you don't use the car, even and especially under caution, to impede or take out another driver, Evan. Unfortunate that we're even seeing this kind of retaliation, and especially unfortunate that it's happening under caution tonight. Just not the kind of racing we want to see here in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, and disappointing because especially for Jonathan Cadell, he was 3rd in points coming into tonight's race.
And Cadell's had a rough night in the 15, and I think the reason he was upset and he's going to be given an EOL penalty is because after a certain amount of incident points, you're going to be DQ'd possibly. So he was upset that he feels that he may have been given the cause of that caution. He will receive an EOL for that reason, and he feels that his race may have been ended because of that. Glenn Campbell has had enough. He's parked that thing on pit road. He is gone. The 44 driver has gone back to the motorhome for the night. Glenn Campbell has had enough. He's gone. And the 15 of Jonathan Cadell, the other driver in that mix, on track without a back bumper when it's all said and done. So tempers flaring under the lights here at a short track with the RSR guys and keeping it entertaining, and we still got over 30 laps to go.
Yeah, my gut tells me that if Glenn Campbell hadn't parked that machine, he may have been given a kind suggestion to consider parking that machine, because that's not the way that these guys normally race. It's not the kind of racing they promote, and unfortunate. I know from the driver's seat, of course, it's a lot of emotion. You're gonna have the heat of the moment stuff going on right here, Evan, but as we get ready to go back green flag racing, you look at a guy like Jonathan Cadell now with the last car on the lead lap and the last car running in 23rd position. He's basically got to clear all that just happened out of his head, get back into this mindset, and go race here for the last 32 laps or so.
Thomas J. George in the number 1 machine will cycle back to position number 12 after coming down pit road under this most recent caution. He took 4 tires under that and is back out on track. Lights are off on pace car. This is going to put, right now, as everybody appears to try to get sorted out, a little bit of contact into the caution. I do believe Bobby Terrell will be the control car on this. Or no, looks like the 60 of John Higman Jr. will now pull down into that number 1 spot. Terrell's going to be put in second. John Higman Jr. is going to get a crack at the lead in his Joey Totino Racing Chevy. Let's see how this one shakes out. Thomas J. George, first car to exit pit road on fresh Goodyear's 12.
This is going to be very interesting, and we're about to see how much fresh tires are really worth. We saw this happen earlier, and Thomas J. George drove his way right back to the lead, but he was only about 6th at that point. He's got a lot more cars to pass, and just 31 laps to do it in. I'm not sure that's the right call. I think maybe he had a few more guys stay out than he expected to stay out, and it could cost him. The dominant car in 12th. Pace car hits pit road. John Higman Jr., your race leader. Green flag back in the air. We're going to have 31 laps to settle it at Iowa. Higman in the 60 gets away. The battle's going to be on behind him for second. Oh, we got trouble.
Terrell's
2 cars up into the wall. Bobby Terrell involved. He gets plowed hard in turn number 2. Caution flag flies again with 30 to go. And that right there was sparked. Bobby Terrell and Dan Murray were trying to fight over the second position, and I didn't see any contact, Evan. I think that the 9 machine just got loose.
No, it looks like the 55 lost the handle on it just a little bit. You can see the back end step out. If we get up a slow motion up, back end of the 55 steps out just a little bit. And it looks like he got into the 9 of Terrell. Terrell into the fence. The 78 takes a piece of it. And then, bam, the 8 machine flying in. Michael Gray gets a lick of that as well. Back under yellow. And Bobby Terrell, after running a strong race all night long up inside the top 3, just like that, it's all gone. And he is down pit road for heavy, heavy service.
That, I'm not sure if it's race-ending damage, but it's pretty close. That car is tore to pieces. The Muscle Milk number 9, and that's such a shame. He had a top 3 car this entire night long, and now it's basically over, and I'll tell you, that's 2 very, very fast race cars now that Thomas J. George will not have to pass, Evan. The problem is this caution going to eat up 4 or 5 laps that he is really wanting to use to be able to get back to the front of this field, and Dan Murray going to be sent to the tail right here, all the way back to the end of the longest line. He's taking responsibility, or rather the officials are having him take responsibility, I suppose, for that caution. Tough break for the 55. He too was another one that had a top 5 run going tonight, and now he's going to see that fall away.
And again, I touched on that earlier, is this race is not over. You can sit out there for the 1 hour, 20 minutes plus that these guys have been racing and run a spot-on perfect race. And all it takes is one driver, 1 second, just to have to slip up a little bit to try to chase that car up the hill to end your night. And that is exactly what happened in that scenario. And a tough break for Dan Murray also, because his 55 machine, my pick at the start of the race to try to break through tonight, was top 3 also. Not like he benefits from taking out the 9 of Terrell. Didn't do it on purpose. He gets an EOL penalty, drops back to 23rd.
So, now we have 23 cars going to be left when we get the restart. Maybe a couple less than that, depending on if Michael Gray and Bobby Terrell can get their cars in raceable condition for this restart. And what that's going to do now is shake up the top 10 to look something like this for a restart that's going to come with about 25 or 26 laps to go. John Higman Jr., now your race leader. Justin Wilson up to P2. The 78 of Brandon Peterson moves up now to 3rd. Doug Roth in the 43 having a great drive tonight in 4th place. Rhett McBride, number 2 in the championship, involved in a crash earlier, back up to P5. 6th is the 59 of Garrett Atwell. 7th, Adam Benefiel, who's had to fight back from a couple of pit road things earlier in the night. Steve Gottschalk rides 8th. He stayed out on a strategy call earlier tonight, has worked his way solidly back into the top 10. Your race leader, or race dominator as the case may be, Thomas J. George, rides in the 9th position currently, and rounding out the top 10, the number 21 of Matt Lacrosse, championship leader Eric Brundy's currently sitting 11th, Evan. So we're seeing a lot of guys right now in the top 10 who have not won. Of course, we talked about this being a wild card race. Going to be a restart with 25 laps to go on a short track. I think we're far from done.
Oh yeah, this thing's still got a lot left in it and a handful of more tricks that are going to go down here. We paced through 1 and 2. We're going to go green with 25 laps to go on the dot. No overtime. I figured we're going to have a handful of more cautions the way this race has gone in the opening stages. And again, that incident that last time by happened up front. So it's game on. Whatever you've done to get to this point, it's time to rock and roll with it. You got to make it work. John Higman Jr. in the 60. Is he going to steal this thing? Thomas J. George is up to 9th. But if cautions keep hindering the number 1 machine, is he going to be able to get a chance to get back up front? We're going to be on board with the car in 3rd. That's the 78 of Peterson this time by.
Getting ready to restart. Higman tied for 3rd on the all-time RSR wins list. A win tonight would tie him for 2nd all-time with Bobby Terrell. That would be a mark worth celebrating. Green flag back in the air. 25 laps to settle it, and we've got one car. I think Rhett McBride did not go on the start. They're far wide down to turn number 1, and the 1 of Thomas J. George makes a huge move, picks up about 5 spots down the back straightaway.
We were on board with the 78 who lost the gas pedal there. Brandon Peterson to the outside in the middle of it all has been able to recover
in
from
turn
that.
4. The 21 of Matt Lacrosse goes around, now gets into Rhett McBride. Now a 5-6 car incident. We've got 4 cars going through the grass.
Caution.
Adam Benefiel saves it. Caution is out again with 23 laps. Thomas J. George racing for 5th with the 21 of Matt Lacrosse. Gives him ever so slight a tap. I don't know if the 1 came up, the 21 came down just a hair, but either way, they come together. Caution flag is out once again.
And Thomas J. George is pleading his case that he made no contact, but on the replay, you can see definite, the slightest. But it does clearly look like the 1 got into the left rear of the 21 of Matt Lacrosse. Lacrosse got sideways. He saved it. And that whole time, as you were describing this wreck, there was no caution. Everybody was sideways, but nobody was wrecked. And then finally, the 68 turns the 21 of Matt Lacrosse, who was all over the racetrack. And a lot of drivers are not happy. The 1 continuing to plead his case. Thomas J. George continuing. Did not even receive a 0x on his screen, but per the replay, you can see definite contact between those 2. And Dan Murray, there you go, is going to receive an EOL penalty. Yeah, so we got to wait and see here. If they do deem the cause of the caution that 1 car, then that would be a tough blow for the dominant car all night long, because if he gets an EOL, he drops back to 21st something place. He's done. And he's been the dominant car all night long. So this is a tough call on the RSR officials.
Okay, Evan, for fans out there who may be tuning in tonight who may not be completely familiar with the iRacing service, George saying on the radio that he did not even see a 0x on his screen, but we saw contact on the replay. Explain that to some of the fans out there, because I know this, like you said, it's going to be a tough call, but there's a lot of different factors that go into this sim. Of course, it's a sim. It's not perfect.
Yeah, and that's basically the sim determining if it deems that you made contact, and those are incident points, and you can get them for all kinds of things. Car contact, loss of control, off track if you get down to the grass, a whole bunch of things. But basically, if you're drafting at Daytona and you give that guy in front of you a little bit of a bump, typically you're going to get a 0x, not every time. So in the sim technically did not deem that contact hard enough to be a 0x. And again, we saw that on the replay just the slightest bit. He did get there. The sim, however, did not get him the 0x, and it may save Thomas J. George because it does not appear that he's getting an EOL penalty. He sits 6th, so that 1 car may luck out of this thing and still have a shot at this win.
I just heard Justin Wilson say over the radio that from what he saw out his rearview mirror, he thought maybe it was a netcode glitch, which we've seen a couple of times this year.
And there was for sure contact, and we put it up on the screen there, but it was such slight contact that when you're going through the corner and you see that in your mirror, you might not be able to know. Justin Wilson, the 58, is stating that from his view in his rearview mirror that he saw netcode. From our angle, it looked like there was definite contact. From the sim, it says there was no contact, so who knows? But there was definitely something that went down between those two cars that appeared to be contact to the left rear of the 21, and that's going to set us up again for another restart, this time within 20 to go. And again, John Higman Jr. trying to steal this one. He currently sits in the first spot.
If they leave George where he's at right now, I don't think there's any way Higman steals this away unless he's able to catch a caution inside of 5 laps to go, because I think on old tires and knowing that that one machine took 4, even with 17 or 18 laps to go when we get this restart, I'll tell you right now, I think that one is just too good, Evan. I don't see anybody that if this, by some miracle, goes green to the end, I don't see any way that the one doesn't win this race.
Well, he's flying. And I mean, he restarted, about the 12th position when we came into this thing, and he's gained on average 3. He went up to 9th, and now he's gone up to 6th. You figure he's going to have about 17 laps to go, 18 laps to go in this thing when we go back green. I see Thomas J. George being able to get this, unless, again, those cautions fly nearly immediately. If John Higman Jr. takes this win, he is stealing it from that one of Thomas J. George. Thomas J. George, so strong all night long in his Snap-on Chevrolet. He's going to be on the outside of the 3rd row, the number 1 car, starting from 6th, trying to close in. Control car at the 60.
Yeah, and about ready to go back green flag racing, and Higman on the point. Outside of him, Justin Wilson. Pace car hits pit road. They're going to bunch up, and Higman going to get a great run. Wilson stays right with him, though, and the one of Thomas J. George not quite on the gas where he needed to be. Meanwhile, the 43 of Doug Roth falls back into the clutches of Garrett Atwell. Meanwhile, again, side-by-side battle around 6th place. Gottschalk in the 91, George in the 1. George goes to the outside, makes a power play to move back into the top 5, 17 laps to go across the stripe.
Don't count out Justin Wilson in the 58. If it's that 60 that he needs to get to, he might get it done. However, John Higman Jr., a great run. Coming out of turn number 2, down the back, and now into 3, the top 3 cars on the racetrack. Higman, Wilson, Doug Roth trying to pull away, but the one of Thomas J. George is around Garrett Atwell to 4th.
Yes, he is, and he is flying, setting some of the fastest laps of this race to date. George now moves in on the 43 of Doug Roth, less than a car length in arrears in the battle for 3rd place. Meanwhile, Atwell falling into the clutches of Eric Brundy's in 6th. But off turn number 4, the battle's actually going to be for 2nd. Doug Roth gets way loose, trying to take the 58 of Justin Wilson to the cleaners. That's going to allow Thomas J. George into 3rd. Roth falls all the way back about to 5th. And now, George, the man on the attack, just 3 car lengths out of the lead.
Can't stop him. That one of Thomas J. George. He's up to 3rd. He wants 2nd. And now the 60 of Higman Jr. overdrives it 3 wide for the lead. And through the middle, Justin Wilson to the point. Now Thomas J. George finds himself still battling for 2nd, this time with the 60. Does he go to the bottom of the 58 of Wilson? No, he does not. He remains door to door with John Higman Jr. down into 3.
And that right there was just a mistake by the 60 of John Higman Jr. He just drove it wide into turns 3 and 4, and it may cost him the race. Higman, no, wiggles the one of Thomas J. George. Moves back to the outside in turn number 1. Higman in the 60 gave him a shot off turn 4, and I'll tell you, that's given Justin Wilson a big advantage. Still into turn number 3, the 60, trying to make it work again. He definitely bumped the 1, but now Thomas J. George driving away, driving towards the race lead. 13, now 12 laps to go.
And caution has flown to 31 of Eric Arnold, and the softest caution that we've seen all night long. The 31 of Eric Arnold sideways at a 2, gets about a 45-degree angle, keeps on rolling, but the iRacing sim has thrown the yellow flag, and that's going to set up Thomas J. George for a restart on the outside lane within 10 laps to go. Do we see anybody pit this time by?
No, I don't think so. I think if you're in the top 5, you've made your bed and you're going to sleep and you're going to sleep in it at this point. I mean, you look at Thomas J. George, he was trying to fake off turn 4, but there's no way he's pitting. He knows he's got the best tires. He knows head-to-head he can beat the 58 of Justin Wilson on this restart. Even though he's starting in the outside lane, that one has done exactly what he needs to do. He took advantage of a rare mistake by the veteran John Higman Jr., drove it 3 wide. What a move he made to the inside. Justin Wilson came through the middle to get the lead, but I'll tell you right now, this race is not over. Thomas J. George running second, and I guarantee you he's going to be making a move for the lead on this restart, because it very well could be the final restart of this race.
And we saw Justin Wilson. He got a great run on that last restart when he was starting in second, and he hung tough, and he was holding strong with that 60, and arguably one of the best restarts that we saw for a car starting in second. Typically it's going to be the car in third inside of that second row that gets a better jump, because he's looking straight at the back bumper of our leader. The guy who sits in second place on the outside of the front row, he kind of has to hesitate because he can't have a nose over our leader. So normally it's that car in third that gets a better jump, but 50 to Justin Wilson did a very good job on the outside of that front row in order to hang tough. I don't think he's going to hang on to Thomas J. George. You figure no overtime in this thing. We have a possibility of not only this next restart, but maybe one, possibly two if the cautions come out almost right away. But once you get in within 3 laps to go, this race is going to end under yellow.
If they get a caution pretty much on the restart, they might be able to line it up for one more, but I think we're going to get the green flag here with 7 or 8 laps to go. So basically, if you don't have a caution in the first 2 or 3 laps, you're done. Then if you get a caution, this race is over, and at that point, we've seen it a couple times this year. They'll freeze the field, and that'll be the end of that. So 141 laps going in the books this time by, so it's 9 laps to go at the start-finish line. Lights remain on the Ford First Mustang pace car, so we'll go at least 2 more times around, which means at best, Evan, we're going to set up a restart with 7 laps to go, which means basically you have to have a caution on the restart to set up a green-white checker.
Now you got 1, maybe 2 laps, and after that it's going to be the next flag to end this race. And if you want to be realistic, we are racing till that caution flag, because the way this race has gone and the way these last couple restarts have gone, I don't see these guys making 7+ laps with the level of aggression that they have been driving with the last few times. So in reality, if you make it these first 2 laps, that's it. You're racing it like it's the last lap for the next handful, and I think this is going to end under yellow. Unfortunately as it is, but it's going to be, I think, the realistic outcome the way these guys have been racing.
So, getting set to roll. 1 to go signal going to be given this time by, as the lights are out on the iRacing.com Ford First Mustang pace car. It's going to be Justin Wilson on the bottom, and the race's most dominant car. He's led nearly 100 laps tonight. Thomas J. George lining up on the outside of the front row. John Higman Jr., who gave George a shot on that last run, going to line up 3rd. 4th, the 43 of Doug Roth, and 5th, the 59 of Garrett Atwell. Those are your front 5 for what could potentially be our final restart. Wilson, George, Higman, Roth. Those are going to be the cars that realistically have a shot to duke it out for the win. The question now, does Higman try to muscle George out of the way so he can have a shot at it? Or will George power all the way to victory lane? Justin Wilson bringing him down real slow. Now he jumps on the gas, catches the one asleep at the switch.
Great
Green flag
start.
in the air. Higman drives by for second. Wilson gets a great run on the restart. Now the one trying to cross over the 60 of John Higman. He's going to have to contend with the 43 of Doug Roth for third.
The one car just got blown out of the water, and now Justin Wilson has a buffer between him and Thomas J. George. The 43 of Roth is going to clear him also. Thomas J. George all the way back to position number 4 at the start and finish line. He's getting that panicking feeling. He's trying to get by to the bottom of Doug Roth. Can he clear him? No, he cannot. He'll stay door to door. Expect him to try to get the job done down into turn 3. Justin Wilson has pulled a second over Thomas J. George, who now battles with John Higman Jr. for second.
Justin Wilson knew that was going to be his only shot to go to victory lane, or to even attempt it, was to be able to catch the one asleep at the switch. He did that. The gap is 9/10 of a second as they work off turn number 2. John Higman that last time by got squirrely off turn 4, gives up third and fourth to the 43 of Doug Roth and the 94 of Eric Bundy's, who's now trying to go for third as Thomas J. George trying to cut into the gap for the lead. It's extended now, a full second with 4 laps to go.
The battle rages on for third. Doug Roth on the outside. Eric Brundy's on the inside trying to steal it. Can't get it on that time by. If Thomas J. George is going to win this race, he has to start making up time. If a caution flag flies now, this race is over. Justin Wilson, 3 laps to go, and Thomas J. George only took off 5/100ths.
He took off a little bit more than that, officially a 10th. It's down to 8/10 of a second right now. When they cross the flag this time, it'll be 2 laps to go. The one is closing, but he's not closing fast enough. This time by double popsicles in the air, 2 to go.
3 wide, and now trouble back in the pack. 21 sideways. Matt Lacrosse hangs on to it after nearly wrecking in a 3-wide battle at a corner number 4, Thomas J. George. And now caution, this race is over. And Justin Wilson will get it as turn 2 has turned into a parking lot. The one is shown his displeasure over the radio after contact between Matt Lacrosse and the 65 machine. In turns 1 and 2, the 65 is going to get turned around, and that is Ed Williams Jr. The 15 of Cadell collected once again, and yellow will fly. This is going to end under yellow flag conditions, and Justin Wilson will steal this race. And Thomas J. George, very frustrated over the radio, and has a couple of words for some of the drivers.
I'll tell you right now, you used exactly the word I was going to. Justin Wilson stole it. He would have stolen it had they gone all the way to the checkered, but instead a caution coming to the white flag is going to deliver that number 58 another win. He's going to move into double digits. Only 9 other drivers have accomplished that with his 10th career win tonight. Justin Wilson takes the checkered flag in the Garry Mercer 130 here at Iowa. His 10th career victory, tying him with Guy Snyder IV for 9th on the all-time list. Thomas J. George finishing second. Doug Roth rounding out the podium. Wow. I don't know how much you can say about that right there. An incredible drive by Justin Wilson, but Evan, the argument can be made. They were coming to the white flag. Thomas J. George was not going to get there. He was not making up the ground quick enough. He had 3/4 of a second to make up with 2 laps to go, and Justin Wilson, he was not going to be caught.
You know, and it's going to come down to that restart. If that was just straight speed, and we saw Thomas J. George get a restart like Justin Wilson did on the second to last one when he was in second place, this race goes to the 1. But the 58 mixed it up. Control car has from when the pace car hits pit road to the sim throwing the green flag. Everybody else went nearly immediately, maybe a second later. Justin Wilson played the strategy. He waited and hesitated. Then he left, caught Thomas George sleeping, and then Thomas J. George got caught in traffic behind the 43 of Doug Roth. Eric Brundy's was also in that mix, was able to put a buffer in between him and that one car. By the time George got clear, that 58 had set sail, and he definitely earned this win, but steals it after a dominating performance from Thomas J. George all night long.
So Justin Wilson grabs his 10th career win here tonight at Iowa Speedway, and right after a break, we'll talk to the driver who ends the night in victory lane. First, these words. You are watching LSRTV and coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series from Iowa Speedway. This is LSRTV. We'll be right back.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks and terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to Iowa Speedway, and the 7/8 mile speed plant has produced us one of the most incredible finishes we've seen all season long in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. Yes, the last lap was under caution, but what a night it's been. Jacob Seelman and Evan Pasoko alongside in the LSR broadcast tower as it's time for the Garry Mercer Trucking Post-Race Show here tonight from Iowa, and a lot of storylines getting ready to go on here, but I think the first thing everybody wants to know is what happened on the last restart, and to do that, we're going to talk to the man who finished second and dominated tonight's event, Thomas J. George, who had the fastest car all night long, drove his way to the front of the field after taking on tires 5 or 6 different times, led 100 laps plus on this night, and doesn't have it end the way that he wanted it to on the final restart. Thomas, you had this race in the palm of your hand, and that last restart is where it all went awry. What happened?
On the tires. Simple as that.
I know it's not the way you wanted your night to end. You were looking for the first career win. You had one of the fastest cars I think we've seen you have in this series this year. I know it's not the result you wanted, but can you take away anything from a night that had so many positives?
There was a lot of positives and there was a lot of negatives, and those negatives were cautions. And I'm glad I sat on the pole. I'm glad I have the speed and that we have the speed here, but it doesn't take the bitter taste out of your mouth when you have a car that good and we can't run. And then I apologize to Matt Lacrosse for the wreck that happened, but you know, he didn't give me any room, and I held my line down there, and I thought I gave him room to move up a little bit. We could have raced side by side, and I'll see what happens, what they say, if I'm going to get penalized or anything like that. But if you're going to pinch down, that's the chance you take. I still gave him room. He could have moved up. We could have gone side by side in the corner. Didn't want to.
I know it's a tough end to your night, but you still come home second, and there's a lot of people and supporters that helped make a solid performance like this possible for you, and want to give you a chance to shout out to them. Who makes it happen for Thomas George?
All my buds at AOR Racing, PMS Racing, and James Collins for the new paint today, and you guys for doing the broadcast. I'm sure you had some exciting moments there, and just wish we could give you more green flag runs and not wreck every 5 laps.
Thomas J. George comes home second tonight and had the dominant car at Iowa, just comes home 1 position short. Going to throw it upstairs now. Evan Pasoko, I believe you've caught up with our third-place man this evening, Doug Roth.
And Doug Roth might almost get lost in the aftermath of everything that went on in those closing laps. But, Doug, you're able to sneak away with a third-place finish. This race ending under the yellow flag. But walk us through your race. You qualified outside of the top 10 when we're up there in those closing laps. Just did not have enough to hang on to those top 2 as they started to pull away on that final restart. But walk us through this 150-lap race. I know there were a lot of yellows. Did you get caught up in anything, and how'd you manage to work your way through to get here?
Well, I really attribute my finish to just having a real clean race, to be honest with you. I stayed in the top 10 for most of the race, maybe a little outside earlier on, but kept the car clean, stayed out of all the carnage, and stayed off the wall. So I think I ended up with not even a scratch on it at the end of the race, and had a real nice, fast car tonight, and came home in third, and thought we had a car that could have maybe caught second or maybe won, but we'll definitely take a third tonight.
And definitely, and moving forward in this season, things starting to wind down before we reach the point where everything's going to reset and everybody looks forward towards the championship. Entering tonight, you're actually going to get your first top 5, so a solid night out, but still looking for a win. Do you think you're going to be able to steal one next week? We go to Atlanta. How confident are you there?
Well, the league has a lot of really good drivers in here, and you know, I like to say I'm real confident. I do have confidence in my team and my car, but the talent in the RSR here is second to none. So I mean, we got a lot of really good drivers to pass to get to that number 1 spot. So we'll see. We'll take our best equipment to Atlanta next week and see how we fare.
Talked about the team. We see those sponsors on that 43. Who do you want to thank, and who makes it happen?
I'd like to thank my painter, Hippie's Paint Shop. Does all my paint jobs for me for my car. I'd like to thank RSR for putting on the league. Like I said, great league. It's been a while since I've been with the RSR, so it's good to be back and a good way to finish for my debut back. And I also like to thank brand Mercer Trucking for sponsoring. And of course, LSRTV for the broadcast and the awesome job you guys do up in the booth.
Come back with a solid top 3 finish. Congratulations and good luck moving forward next week to Atlanta.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Evan. Appreciate it. Take care.
And that is Doug Roth. Driver of the 43 is able to come home and steal a 3rd place finish in his first race back with the RSR guys, feeling confident next week into Atlanta. Now, Jacob, I've sent you down, and we believe you've caught up in victory lane with Justin Wilson, who picks up yet another one here tonight.
Victory Lane is the place to be here in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, and for the 10th time in his career, Justin Wilson, you find yourself right here celebrating the spoils of victory. I'll tell you the numbers first and then walk me through that last run. Double digits, only 9 other guys before you have accomplished that. You actually tie for 9th all-time on the wins list, but the way you did it, I think, was the most spectacular. Late race restart. You knew the one was to your outside and had fresher tires than you did, and you were able to pull it off on that restart. Walk me through that last run.
Well, the biggest thing was that restart, because I knew if I could get a big enough jump
to where my teammate Hickman was able to clear him. It would give me a little bit of time to try and get as far as head as possible, because I knew once he got open track, he would have just drove me down. So I'm glad that that really paid off for us, because we had no shot at Thomas. That was his race to lose, and I feel bad for stealing it from him, but at the same time I don't, because that's another W for us for the chase. But for starting 30th, getting collected in an early wreck with the amount of damage we had in our car, I'd say that we got very lucky tonight.
You were only making your 8th start of the season tonight. You've run half the races, but you walk away tonight with your 2nd win of 2014, and now heading into the Atlanta Motor Speedway for the series' next race. How much confidence does this give you, knowing that you may not have been at all of them, but every single one you've been in, you have been competitive?
Yeah, I mean, these are a very good group of guys to run with. I mean, some races it doesn't show it, but, it's because we're all trying our best to pass one another, but we all need to calm down. But I have good hopes going into these next races. Atlanta will be a good one. Hopefully get some long green runs there. And we got a road course coming up. I'm really excited about that. But mostly I'm just going to kind of take the rest of the season and just more relax until the chase, get some seat time in and go for it, because we're sitting really good for the chase. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
And I know you can't do it by yourself, Justin. 2 wins on the year, and there's people that make it happen. Who makes it happen for Justin Wilson?
Definitely Joey Gattina. I mean, that's the only reason I'm here is because of him. He gave me a shot to run for him, and I took it. I'm glad I did, because it's been a blast. Teammates, John Higman Jr., our new one, Scott Stenzel. And some of the spotters I have every now and then, Joey English and Mitch Rollo, whenever they get a chance to.
Justin, congratulations. Go celebrate with your team. You are a winner for the 2nd time this season here at Iowa. Do it in spectacular fashion, my friend. Congratulations again.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Evan, I'm going to throw it back upstairs to you for a minute. I'm going to try and go down to catch up with our points leader, Eric Brundys. But real quick, take us through the Garry Mercer Trucking full field rundown here, and let's catch up on where everybody finished here tonight.
And that's right. We talked to the top 3. Justin Wilson able to steal that victory. He's going to go to victory lane. Thomas J. George at the moment currently sits 2nd. Again, unofficial, as race control still going over and reviewing a couple of those incidents late in the race. But the one machine comes home unofficially in 2nd. Doug Roth is able to come home in 3rd. Eric Brundys takes 4th. Dan Murray comes home in position number 5. 6th belongs to John Higman Jr. Steve Gottschalk comes home in 7th. Brendan Mercer wraps up his night for an 8th place result. Michael Woolley is going to recover for 9th place, and Jonathan Cadell, after a long night out, comes home in 10th. Rhett McBride takes home 11th. Scott Simley 12th. CJ LeVere in 13th. Brandon Peterson 14th. Matt Lacrosse 15th. Eric Arnold and Aven Uke recovers for 16th. Jason Lester able to wipe it up with a 17th place finish. Ed Williams Jr. 18th. Garrett Atwell 19th. And he is the last car on the lead lap. Adam Benefield comes on 1 lap down in 20th. 21st, Scott Stenzel. Michael Gray, 22nd. Bobby Terrell, 23rd. And everybody from here on back retired from this evening's competition. Glenn Campbell, 24th. 25th is Doug Manning. James Robinson, 26th. 27th belongs to Mark Bradsher. Joey Jatina in 28th. 29th is Bo McGuire. And rounding out the top 30, Ryan Vaughn. Joe Hassert, 31st. 32nd, Keith Brooks Jr. Nathan Little in 33rd, Brian Harvey 34th, 35th, Kevin Linden, and that will round out your 35-car field, the 35 cars that took tonight's start. And now we believe, Jacob, you've run down there and you've caught up with our championship points leader, Eric Brundys.
Yeah, I have. Down here, Eric Brundys comes home with a 4th place result tonight after having a tough go of it last week at Daytona, and going to be able to use this to re-extend some of that championship lead, Eric. You've got 3 wins, so we know you're solidly in the chase for the championship, but I'll tell you, there were a couple times tonight on some of those restarts that I thought you might be able to run up and steal one tonight, still come home with your 11th top 5 finish of the season. Talk about that run tonight, because it seemed like wherever you went tonight, excitement was following you wherever you were in the field.
Yeah, it was fun. It's my this is my home state, so it's nice to run good at your home track. But no, we were fast, and yeah, we were 5 wide on one of those restarts, and then on another restart there at the end, I really thought I was gone. I was completely sideways, and I don't know how I saved it, but no, it was a good run, and I don't know, I'm kind of regretting not staying out, but that run prior, my tires had felt them start to give up, and I honestly didn't think that many people would stay out. But, you know, we were able to go from 14th to up and finish 4th, so that was good.
Solid job for you tonight, Eric. What was it like? Because you guys could never really get a good long green flag run established. Was it tough on you having as many cautions as plagued this race tonight?
Yeah. I don't know. It's grown kind of used to it. It's a short tracks. You know, you're not, when you race on tracks under a mile, you're not going to get long green runs. So we knew that, and it's all about strategy and pitting, and so you can stay out at the end. And I just wish we didn't have quite so many laps on our tires there at the end. There, we would have finished the race on 70 lap tires, and I think it's a bit too much. So we came down pit road and somehow made it back to top 5. So it was good.
And on the solid nights like this, I know you can't do it by yourself. Want to give you a chance to shout out to the team members or sponsors that make it happen. So who makes it happen for Eric Brundy's?
Oh, I just want to thank, you know, my teammates and, you know, the sponsors and you guys. You guys put on great broadcasts and take time out of your nights to do this stuff. So I really appreciate it.
Unofficially extends his championship lead to 72 points over Rhett McBride. And as we get ready to sign off tonight from Iowa Speedway, Evan, any final thoughts from you? Because we've seen really a barn burner of a race tonight.
And just like most of the drivers, I'm sure that everybody would like to see a little bit more green flag racing, but that's the short track racing. There's a lot of contact, and there's a lot of, you know, sheet metal getting bumped, and there's a lot of feelings that get bent too. And that's just another night out here under the lights at Iowa. I look forward to next week when we go to the Atlanta Motor Speedway. But all in all, a good race, and even with the yellows, we saw a lot of competitive side-by-side racing, and again, really a stunner of a finish where Justin Wilson was able to sneak away with that W up front. So what we thought was going to be a night for Thomas J. George drama at the end. Justin Wilson steals it. We had obviously the on-track incidents, a lot of great racing. I don't think you can ask for much more, and another great out with the RSR guys.
So final statistical report on the night: 10 lead changes, 15 caution flags over the course of the 150-lap event. 130 miles tonight at the Iowa Speedway. We've seen a good one. Eric Brundy's leaves again as the championship leader. It's been a long night, but it's been an exciting night. Want to say again, congratulations to Justin Wilson, who picks up his second win of the 2014 RSR Full Throttle Cup Series season. And as Evan said, next Monday, we'll be back here at 9:30 p.m. Eastern from the Atlanta Motor Speedway, the mile-and-a-half track where tire wear is key, and kind of like at Iowa, just about anything can happen. But for right now, I want to say thank you to everybody that makes it happen, from Garry Mercer Trucking for sponsoring the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, and want to say thank you tonight, as always, to my broadcast partner right up here in the tower, Evan Pasoko. So for Evan and our executive producer, Laura Lawson, this is Jacob Seelman for LSRTV, reminding all you race fans out there, keep it off the wall until we meet again, and we'll see you next time on the web. So long and good night from Iowa.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.